Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that there is no such thing as not consequence. There is a thing as consequence. That's definitely a thing. There is no such thing as coincidence or mistakes, and we are here to share our experience and stories on that. I am Deb Miller.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Doyle. Healthy, peaceful New Year to everybody. It's nice to see you, Deb.
Nice to see you too. It's chilly here in Florida. We're going to have some falling iguanas again coming up this weekend.
Oh my God. It's cold here too. It's very windy today.
Is
Very
it?
windy. I still have our Christmas stuff up, so I'm a little worried that the wreaths on the windows are going to go flying down the street, but
Well, that's
hopefully I
one
can.
way to get rid of them and
Here you
pack
go, right? I don't have to climb up a ladder to go get them.
them.
And I have some good news for everybody. Thank you all so much for like listening and watching, and Deb and I really appreciate it. We are now on Spotify, and we are now on Amazon Music.
Mhm.
And remind me of a couple of the other ones. So Debbie and I are very, very technologically non-advanced.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not really sure, but we figured out we got a little a tutorial from a youngster in our lives that helped us with all of it.
Thank you, Alec Wallace. Yes. Yeah.
So if, YouTube isn't your thing, I know a lot of people. I personally am a Spotify person, so I am psyched that we are on Spotify. So nice work.
Yes, I know. Thank you so much for everybody's support. It's been a lot of fun, and now you can hear us on a couple other podcast channels. And I actually don't remember the other four, so we're just gonna have to leave it at
It's
that.
all right.
I'll write it
We'll
down.
figure it out. So it's funny, I want our listeners to understand that. So we get on the phone or we get on Zoom with each other, and we just kind of banter back and forth for a little bit because some weeks we don't speak a lot in between, excuse me, us recording our podcast. So we catch up with each other a little bit and kind of, shoot the shit and exchange pleasantries and so forth. But lately we've, just been like, so what do you want to talk about? And she'll say, well, what do you want to talk about? So this morning I woke up, and I taught my yoga class this morning. And I always like to infuse kind of a message, just a spiritual message or kind of something to think about. Um, and so this morning, because last time we recorded, we talked a whole bunch about how goals and resolutions, put a lot of undue pressure on you, that if you don't meet them, you feel like you failed and things like that. So today I was speaking to my students about piling more things on or taking more things off. And so what I said is we have a tendency, or we have been conditioned for years, to have a long revolving to-do list. And I don't know about you or anybody else out there, my to-do list is never completely blank. I'm constantly scratching things off, but I'm constantly adding things onto it. And so I spoke a lot this morning about how we've been conditioned to constantly add more things to our plate, to do more, be more, keep up with more. When in reality, for me, and the focus was today, is oftentimes I find more freedom in my life and my ability to focus and put more attention and be more present when I take things away.
Mm,
So I started this morning with my students on their mat, and I got them into their first series of poses, and I said, okay, like, take something away.
mm,
Is it your thought process that the yoga pose has to look a certain way, or the practice has to feel a certain way, or your body has to be a certain way, or whatever? And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today, because I find that I used to be that person where I'm like, I have to do more, I have to do more, I have to do more. And I would always get to the end of the day feeling like I didn't really accomplish a lot because nothing ever moved off
Mm,
my list.
mhm,
And so now I make it a practice to remove something. And for me, a huge growing point in my life was when I gave myself permission to say no.
mm,
I always felt like I needed to say yes, or if somebody asked for my help, oh, of course I had to help. And not only did I have to help, I had to take the entire thing over and
mhm,
spearhead it, whatever it was. And which would feed into my resentment, which would feed into my anger. When in actuality, it was, and I would be resentful of the other person when in actuality, it was my own fault
mm,
because I should have just been able to say no. And taking it a step further, being able to say no without having to throw up a paragraph as to why I'm saying no.
mhm,
Were you ever
mhm.
like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I still am. Like I really need to, I've been told over and over again, no is a full sentence. But
Amen.
but that to me, I feel like if I said to you, hey Sue, do you want to blah blah blah? And you just said no, I'd be like, that would not feel comfortable to me. So I wouldn't feel comfortable saying it to somebody else. But it's it should be acceptable. It should be acceptable just to say, no, I'm sorry, no, can't.
How about no, thank you, and not apologizing for saying no?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't require an apology. Don't say
I,
no, I'm sorry. Just say no, thanks. I
I,
can't, I'm
I,
unable to make it.
yes, for sure.
I'm
Like,
unable to fit that into my schedule.
yeah, or no, no, I'm sorry, not right now, or just saying something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember that just brought back a memory to me of like, I remember being when I worked in an office and having like, I must have made some food or cookies or something and brought it in and I offered it to one of my coworkers and she just goes, no, thank you. And I was like offended, I was like, what do you mean? Like, at least take one and throw it away. Like, don't just say no. But it was like she didn't want one. So it was like, okay, so she says no, but it just it's we are programmed to not say no, we're programmed to be accommodating, to be, helpful. And truthfully is you are being helpful when you say no because
Correct.
you it wasn't meant to be. It was not meant to be. So,
Well,
and
the other thing too is like, okay, so you we're programmed to be accommodating, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't accommodate ourselves.
well,
Like
that's
being accommodating to everybody else in your life puts you on the back burner.
yes, for sure.
So I mean,
Yeah, that we have to learn to put ourselves first because, and I learned this when Hunter was sick, when he was going through his chemo, and the nurses would say to me all the time, you are no good to him if you're not taking care of yourself. And I'd say, well, how can I take care of myself? Like I need to be here for him. I need to be doing da da da. And they would just say, figure out a way because he's picking up on all of your energy and it's not
mm,
good. And it's so
that's
true.
so good.
Yeah,
What a great piece of advice.
yes, because people do pick up on our energy. And if we are not in a good mental space or place, we're going to be zero help to anybody. So, and plus the fact that I feel like if we say no to something or somebody, that's opening up an avenue for somebody else to step in and be helpful. And that's the person that is meant to be aligned with whomever is asking for the help. If we
I
if we
agree.
can't, we have to listen to our intuition, our instinct, and ourself, our body. And if it's too much, it's too much. And there's some days where I just don't even, I just want to binge all Netflix all day. I mean, I might not have a lot going on, but I also know that I can't take on anything. I just need to get through the day and escape a little bit. And that's okay.
Agreed.
That's, you know,
I don't think we were put on this planet, on this earth, and granted a life of being overburdened, buried, overworked, and I am guilty of overworking a lot, the majority of my life. I liken it to being like a Sherpa who doesn't have a donkey to help him. That person at some point is going to roll down the mountain because they're carrying everybody else's bags,
right.
right?
Yeah,
When they should have said no to the last two people that came up the hill.
right,
And that's sort of how I liken it is we're not put here to be so weighed down,
right,
right? And so if we're able to take away a few things, to me it opens up room for something that was meant for you. So if
yeah,
you're walking, with all this stuff, all the burdens, even a lot of the stuff that you carry around with you was never meant to be yours. You're just carrying it for somebody else. And they're going and getting all these great possibilities and opportunities because they're light. They have
right,
room, they have space. In order to be able to be awake enough to see a possibility or an opportunity that's in front of you, you need to create space. And the way that you create space is to um, lighten the load, say no to something,
right.
drop something.
And even if it's just so I was talking to a friend recently who had been in a very, very long-term relationship, like 15 years, never married, but always, and the relationship was never great by any means, but she always held on to it. And she realized she finally let it go. And the minute that she let it go, well, not the minute, but soon afterwards, all of these other opportunities came to her because, like you said, she was never holding space for new things to come. Even though they weren't together at the end, it was
Right,
a year of them not being together. She still was holding on to that, what if, or maybe this will happen or whatever. And the minute, as soon as she let it go and said, this is not happening, I'm moving on, it was like, that all of these different opportunities happen. So whether it's like you're holding on to a job that you think you want, or, a relationship that you think you want, or whatever that is, what's really meant for you is not going to be able to come your way until you kind of just surrender it and say, okay, whatever's meant to be is meant to be. And
agreed.
but you have to have the capability to take on something new. It's we did
Yeah.
I was at the center. I go every Sunday to the Center for Spiritual Living here in Sarasota.
Mm-hmm.
I love it so much. It's such a great place. Anyways, we did this burning ceremony. So the Reverend had us put everything on a piece, like one thing on a piece of paper that you were letting go of this year, letting go of.
Right.
And you wrote it down and then you burnt it. And I know a lot of people do this. It's like a custom, but this is the first time that I've ever done it. And it was such an incredible feeling of release. It was like, I am so sick of carrying this around with me. I'm so sick of the constant feeling of heaviness in this.
Right.
Wrote it down, burnt it, and I'm like, I am not going backwards. And I surrendered and I'm like, whatever is going to happen is going to happen.
Right.
I am trusting the universe. I am trusting in God. I am trusting in the energy of this world. And I know that it's going to be perfectly okay. More than perfect.
Here's the thing. If somebody has an issue with it or they get pissed off, fuck them.
Yes, I
That's
know.
their problem. That's their story, or that's their inability to realize that they're, they're not open, they're not honest with themselves, whatever it is.
Yeah.
and they're trying to push that on you if somebody has an issue that you have decided to let this thing go or say no or not help in the same capacity that you used to help. And there's the other thing is you can take something away and still sort of be involved. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the things are collaborative, a lot of the, especially like if you're at work and, you get the people get to know who the people are that will just take it on and do it all. And when you maybe go half speed or 50% because your energies are someplace else, and somebody decides to concoct a story about you in
Mm.
their mind, that's not your business.
That's on them.
You're giving what you can. And so it's interesting that oftentimes, like we've been conditioned that just more is more. You got to keep doing more. You got to keep doing more. You got to keep doing more. And when in actuality, more often than not, doing a little bit less gives you more in the sense that you're more present for your life. You are more intentional and on purpose.
So let's think of it like a garden, right? We have all these beautiful flowers, but there's too many and there's weeds. And so they're growing into each other and they're strangling each other. And so once you pull those weeds and cut back on the bushes that are getting too big, think of how the space that you have just given to those flowers, those plants, and then their ability to bloom so
Right.
amazingly because
Right.
they're not being smushed together and suffocated. That's essentially what we do with ourselves when we take on too much. We suffocate ourselves creatively, spiritually, physically, mentally, the whole nine.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
did you feel like an instant freedom when you set that piece of paper on fire?
instantly. I wrote down what it was that I wanted to let go of. And then we all got in a line and when, put it to the candle and then put and lit it
Mm-hmm.
on fire and put it in a big bowl. Um, I was probably 20 in line to get to the candle. And I was like, I could not wait to get this thing out of my hand. I was like, people don't move. Hurry up. I'm gonna skip the line because it is something that has followed me for years. It is something that has just had a stranglehold on me. And
Yeah.
this year, enough. I am done.
Yeah. Good
And
for you.
was,
Amen.
oh, it was so good. It was just, and it's things like I practice things like that with my sponsees and people in recovery, constantly telling them to drop the rock, drop the rock,
Drop the rock.
drop the rock. And then my other favorite thing is let go or be dragged.
Yeah, so I have a story to tell you about that
Okay.
because I was talking to somebody. I was at a wedding over the last couple of days, and I was talking to this sweet thing that I love. She's part of our family. And I was saying that one of the things, right when we reconnected, I did not realize how much like my yoga practice and what they said was very similar to what you all say in a 12-step program. And I remember saying to you one time that, right after when we were talking a lot, I said to you, oh my God, I heard this great thing in my yoga class today. It said, let go or be dragged. And your face was like, who would say that? And I said, I'm like, it's so true. And what I like to say is put it down for no other reason other than it is heavy.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
put it down just because it's heavy. You don't need to make an excuse. You don't have to have a story about it. You don't have to explain why, simply because it is heavy.
And here's the thing, you can put it down, put it down. That's a good thing. And you can pick it up if you want to again. Like we're not saying that, and I'll speak for myself. There's been many times I've dropped the rock and then ran back and picked it back up because I don't know it's scary for me to let go of something that I've carried for so long. I don't know what that's going to look like. So I would drop the rock, I would run back, I'd pick it up, and then I would drop it again and then run back. So, and then finally you get to a point where you're like, I don't want that, need that. It's an
Mm-hmm.
awakening that happens. It really is.
Right.
And if you think about it, let go or be dragged. How many things do we hold on to that is just beating the shit out of ourselves?
Agreed.
No, it's like we're being dragged, which means that we have bumps and bruises and black eyes. Like it is a painful journey that we're on. If you just let go, you're going to be able to
Right.
heal and
Right.
move forward.
But it's scary sometimes because you've possessed it. It has become part of you for so long that you cannot imagine a life without it, right? So again, you drop it and then you pick it back up and you drop it and you pick it back up. And you know what I like to live by. For me, it's very difficult. Kind of like what I talked about a couple episodes ago when I was getting married for the first time. I had no concept. I could not imagine what forever meant. Like
Mhm.
I had no concept of that, but I'm like, well, okay, forever, sure. Not realizing that we evolve and there's so much that happens between now and forever, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, the concept of letting it go was a little too existential, but what I could do for periods of time is just let it be. Like I would put it in a different pile.
Yeah, let it
And
be.
then over time, I decided not to pick it back up, or I didn't need to pick it back up because I had let it be so many times that I proved to myself that I could live without it.
Right.
So for
That's really
me,
good.
that works a little better than just letting it go. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Letting it go is difficult, even if it's hurting you. It's still something that you become familiar with. And what do they say? Like, the devil that you know is better than the
Better
one.
than the devil that you don't know.
Yes. And it's so many people live,
Yeah.
including me.
Yeah, I mean, but letting it be for me was manageable, was achievable, was something that I could wrap my logical brain around and say, okay, for the next, like when I would roll out my yoga mat for the next hour, I'm just going to let this be. I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to breathe through it. And I'm sure the same thing happens for you, or I shouldn't assume, but you go to a meeting and you let things be when you walk over the threshold of the door. You sort of put them down so you can be fully present to get the message from the meeting and get what you need to kind of fill your cup,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And then when you're walking back out to your car, you have a choice to make. You can pick it back up at the threshold because it is sitting there waiting for you. It is waiting for you, waiting for you, waiting for you. And maybe you pick up 75% of it or
Mhm.
then 50% of it or something like that. So, and oftentimes for me, honestly, Deb, what I need to let go of is the story that I concocted around the thing.
Yeah, it hasn't even happened. It's just a story.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
true.
just taking something away.
Yeah.
And so I'm so proud of you that you burned that. So proud of you. Light that bitch on fire.
Oh yeah, I was kind of like, I can't believe it's taking me 56 years to burn something like that. Like again, it's something that I preach, and the whole like like the whole 9 yards, like I believe in it, and but I never actually did it until this time. And it felt really good. And I'm so trusting in the universe that just surrendering it and letting it go. And I know people are going to say like, oh, well, that's, you got to take control and you got to do this and that. I'm not one that is good about taking control. I have learned that when Deb's in control of things, they go very badly. So
Okay, but I'm going to say this, when Deb thinks she's in control of things, she's really not. Somebody else is in control. You just think you are, so you start gripping tighter and gripping
that's
tighter.
right. That's exactly right. So
So,
that's why left to my own devices, it's not a good scene. So that's why I am more comfortable handing it over and saying,
hmm,
this is what um this is what my expectation is or my intention or whatever. It's more my intention. I want to be this, I want to do that. And then
right.
I just let it go. And always, always things fall into place. I mean, it might not happen within the first 5 minutes or the
Oh,
first,
yeah.
but if I look back on my life and all of the things, everything that I ever asked for or prayed for has come to fruition when the time was right, you know?
Agreed.
So I have a trust in, I have a faith, I have a trust in the universe and the universal truth and the universal law, all of that. But it is hard to put your faith and trust in something that you can't see. It's really hard. But then again, think about this. We believe in fear, but fear you can't see either.
Correct. Correct.
So easy for us
I
to
mean,
be
you can
false.
basically say that about, you know, hundreds of things. We believe in love, but we can't really see that. I mean, it takes a shape, a form different for everybody, but we
Yeah,
all believe in this universal concept, right?
right. So let's remove all the negative things that we can't see and just replace it with the positives. I don't think we're meant to go through this life living in fear and being afraid of something that will most likely never happen. Or if
Right.
it does happen, like your child gets cancer, it does have things like that do happen, but having the belief that no matter how that ends up looking, you're going to be okay. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I
it
mean,
won't
it's
hurt like
so
hell.
freeing and liberating.
Yeah.
It really is. So, well, I guess, so you are open, sis, for some ripe possibility because you have space.
Yeah, I am. I
Yeah.
really, and you know what I want? I'm going to put this intention out there. Anybody who's listening to this, if you have your own story about something that, was you were holding on to and then you finally let go, or whatever that may be, please let us know. We would love to have you on.
Oh, that
Or
would be great. That
yeah.
would be great. You know, it's funny. So I was talking to this little sweet pea that I love at this wedding that I was at, the same woman, and um, we started sort of exchanging stories. Now she's 30 years younger than me, 25, 30 years younger than me.
Oh, she is a sweet little,
She's
yeah.
just sweet. And then another woman came up and started sharing her story. And like we were able to kind of we were able to draw commonalities, but at the same time, we were all able to sort of put it down together because we had each other's backs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It just sort of opened up this whole, I mean, not really a conversation you need to have at a wedding, but we all needed a break from the dance floor. So we sat, we sat for a few minutes. And here's the other thing too, I wanted to touch upon is your ritual of lighting that thing on fire literally took 5 seconds. It doesn't have to be this big, grandiose gesture of, you have to tell everybody in your life that you're putting this down, or everybody in your life that you're going to start saying no more. Just start with one small thing.
Right.
Light something on fire that you want to get rid of. Have a 10-minute conversation with somebody that you share your story, and it lightens the burden for you. Or it may make you feel like you have a connection with somebody else who has the same type of story, and you build yourself your own little community, and you find another person that you want in in your garden, right? Um, it could be, a deep breath in and a deep breath out that takes about 30-45 seconds, and you're rid of it, or you've let it down, or you've put it down, you've let it go. It's not, flying and getting on a mountaintop in Tibet and having to do this humongous ritual. It's a really
You don't have to put a flower
simple,
in your hair and do,
correct. It's simple. It's a simple gesture,
yeah, it is. It's so,
one that speaks to you. So
and it's,
yeah.
well, and I want to comment on the fact that you said, oh, you met these three, the three of you got together and kind of commiserated, and that, how do you think AA got started? It was by
Amen. Right?
that
Yes.
started a conversation about their problems with alcohol. And it is, that's all you need is one,
Mm-hmm.
another person that is going through what you're going through. You're supporting each other, and that's it. That's all you need, and
Yes.
because like I,
Yeah.
we're all just walking each other home. So,
Mm, love that.
I know
Love
that's,
that.
I say that frequently because we have to remind ourselves that we are all on the
Mm-hmm.
doing the best we can, and why not help the next human being get through.
Agreed. Yeah, so I second your motion. Write to us. For those of you who are actually in our lives that have our cell phones, text us. We'd love to have you on. We'd love to share a story. If you don't want to be on, we can just simply, make a comment, or wrap a conversation around your story, and how we would handle it, or our perspective on it, I should say. You can email us at rewindandreflectwithus@gmail.com. It's all spelled out. There's no little symbols or anything in there. Um, and healthy, peaceful New Year to you and all of our listeners. And, I think if there's one takeaway today is just put it down, only because it's heavy, and don't apologize for doing it.
Amen.
Right? Amen.
Namaste.
Namaste, my girl. See y'all next week.